Hi. Hello, everyone. Um, my name's Joanna Nell. I hope people are joining in. We'll leave it a few seconds before I sort of start chatting. Do feel free to leave comments. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, and please ask questions. I'm very happy to answer questions on any of the books. That would really help to open up a great conversation. So um, yeah, hi everybody. I'm talking to you from the northern beaches of Sydney. Hi Jennifer, nice to see you join. I'm speaking to you from what was my kids' rumpus room, but they've all sort of grown up now, and I've reclaimed it as my study sort of reading room with my comfy chair there. So, hi Joe Bell and Sharon. Hi, nice to see everybody joining. For those of you who are just joined, I'm Joanna Nell, and we'll be chatting mainly about my new book, The Tea Ladies of St Jude's Hospital. But as I say, please ask me anything you like. Just keep going in the comments. We can have a chat about any of the books, anything you'd like, really. So, oh, we've got some more people. Vivian's saying she's going to add this to her TBR list. Wonderful. Hi, Cheryl. Leslie, hello. Kerry Ann, who's very excited to read the new book. Louise from Darwin. Oh, hi. Welcome. You come a long way. And Marge, hello. So we're here to mainly talk about the Tea Ladies of St Jude's Hospital. I'll just, while people are joining, just say that this is my fourth novel. You may remember mine are the books with the really long titles that doesn't actually leave very much room for signing on the title page, but there we go. So my first book was The Single Ladies of Jacaranda Retirement Village, about two childhood friends, Peggy and Angie, who meet again just as they're turning 80, moving into the same retirement village. The second book was The Last Voyage of Mrs. Henry Parker, which drew on my experience as a ship's doctor on a cruise ship, and is a love story, really, about a couple, Evelyn and Henry Parker. Evelyn lives on they live on the cruise ship, but one day Evelyn has lost her husband, Dr. Henry Parker, and she must find him. It's a book about love and memory. The third book is The Great Escape from Woodlands Nursing Home, and that followed two very different inmates, residents, both very reluctant residents of Woodlands Nursing Home, Hattie and Walter, and their plans to try to escape. And this is the fourth book. This has just come out. This is The Tea Ladies of St Jude's. Hi, hello Sabine, Felicity. Yes, a little note there from Better Reading. Actually, you can now purchase the book through the Better Reading website. So there's a link there that you can follow. And Jill says she's loved all your books, but finding it hard to find the time to read. Yeah, I'm with you there. So a little bit about this book. Obviously, it's set in St Jude's Hospital, which is a fictional hospital. St Jude, by the way, was patron saint of lost causes, which sort of sets the scene really for a book set in the Marjorie Marshall Memorial Cafeteria. And this is one of the volunteer tea rooms, and it helps to raise funds to provide services at St Jude's Hospital. It's been running for over 50 years, and it's really an essential part of the hospital. And it's been manned by successive generations of volunteers. Hilary is the stalwart who's worked her way up through the ranks to manageress, and Hilary runs a tight ship. She stands no nonsense, and one of her favourite things to do is sort of tut at the other volunteers. But Hilary, until recently, was one half of a power couple, Jim and Hilary, who were big at the golf club. So Hilary was part of the Lunching Ladies set, who were a little bit of a one-upmanship in their fundraising efforts. But through no fault of her own, things have changed, and she's now found herself in her 70s homeless, technically homeless, and she's had to move back in with her older sister, her manipulative and controlling and slightly awful older sister. The second volunteer is Joy. Joy is a retiree. She is a very colourful character. She's very bubbly. She loves people. She's one of those nurturers. You know, she just loves to look after the young people and the young doctors and slip them a little chocolate with their coffees. She has a little bit of a challenge with wayward accessories and also punctuality, much to Hilary's annoyance. She has been the carer for her husband, Len, who has been undergoing treatment for cancer. And she's really volunteering at the hospital, really to try and give back to the community that's looked after Len for so long. The third volunteer is Chloe. Chloe Foster Pearson is 17. She is in her last year of school. She's about to sit her HSC. And she's sent off her application for medical school. She is the daughter of two very successful surgeons. She has two older brothers who are successful doctors, and it's really been assumed that Chloe will go on to medical school. The problem is that it's a little bit late for Chloe to speak up and say, actually, she really loves art and photography, and she's also not that great with blood. But she's volunteering because everyone has told her it will look good on her CV, and it's part of her Duke of Edinburgh. So three very different women, two generations of women working together at the cafeteria. And really the story revolves around what happens when a new big chain of whole food cafes with very trendy menu and lots of different kinds of coffee and milk and different kinds of bread opens up just along the corridor. And suddenly the volunteer cafe is threatened with closure. And so the three women must come together and through various means and a little bit of skullduggery must band together to try and save the cafeteria. And in doing so they realize that actually they have more in common than they think, not least that each one of them is keeping up appearances in some way and is harboring a secret pain. So that's what basically is at the heart of the book there. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the story behind the story in a minute. I'll just go through a few more. Helen from Western Australia, Perth, hi. And Jessie has just pointed out that, yes, be reading the book. It's for the Rachel Johns online book club for the next month. So I hope you enjoy it. Hello from Yeppoon, Central Queensland. That's Vicky. Wendy loves the thought of all these characters. Have a little experience in dealing with some very feisty older people and their behaviours. Love them. Yes, me too. Okay, so look, people are always fascinated with where does the story come from? Where's the inspiration for this? And in the previous books that I've written, I've been able to sort of draw on some beautiful sources like artworks and paintings and sculptures and things like that, and some experience that I've had in aged care. This book was actually inspired on a trip, an unscheduled trip to the John Radcliffe Hospital, which is where I trained as a medical student 30 years ago now. So it's a very long time ago. And I hadn't set foot back in that hospital since then. But we were over, it was Christmas 2019. Do you remember that? That's the Christmas before the world changed, when everybody was still traveling. So we were, as a family, back over in Europe, visiting family around the Oxford area. And my son, who's he's 21 now, he had been complaining of a sore elbow all over Christmas. And as many of you know, I'm a doctor, and my family know only too well that to get the attention of your parent who's a medic, you really need to be sort of virtually dying. So I'd been sort of ignoring it really over Christmas. And then on New Year's Eve, he showed me his elbow. And it was really quite obvious that we needed to get him to hospital. It really was quite infected. So off we went to the hospital because all the GPs were closed, being New Year's Eve. And the good part of the story was that he got his prescription, and all was well. But while we were waiting for the prescription, I happened to wander into the volunteer coffee shop at the John Radcliffe, and it's called the League of Friends. And it hadn't changed a little bit at all since I'd last been there in 1991, and probably still the same sort of cakes and buns, and still the same group of volunteers. And I remember how much money and how much money these volunteer organizations do raise. It's in the order of, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars every year for vital equipment. But down the corridor near the main entrance, the hospital was undergoing a renovation, and one of the big chains, I think it might have been a Marks and Spencer fast food or a Costa Coffee or one of those, had opened up, and the queue was way out down the corridor, lots and lots of people queuing up for their teas and coffees and snacks. And I was suddenly really worried about what was going to happen to the League of Friends. And as I walked out of that hospital, the whole novel came to me. The characters started to form, and I just knew that this bunch of volunteers were not going to go quietly. So that's really the story behind that. Now, many of you will know, be familiar with these coffee shops. Marge saying my mother did voluntary work in a public hospital, taking the paper trolley around the wards and working in the coffee shop. So she's probably one of the Pink Ladies. I think that a lot of people recognise Pink Ladies, but most hospitals will have a little kiosk, or they'll have not just ladies but gentlemen who wander around with the paper and the trolley, and really they are, if you think of a hospital as, I've worked in a lot of hospitals over the year, and any of you who have will know that they're really little microcosms of society. You get all your hierarchy, you get your characters, some of which I tried to bring into this different personalities. But if it's a microcosm of society, then I think that the volunteer tea shop is the beating heart of that. And certainly over the years when I was medical student, and then as a junior doctor, it seemed like back in the day when we would work, I don't think people really believe me when I say we used to work 120-hour weeks, and I rarely left the hospital in days. And sometimes the only food or drink we could get was from the League of Friends or the Pink Ladies. So I hold a very sort of affectionate place in my heart for the people who work there. So TJ from Tamworth has said, do you base the characters of your books on people you know? Your characters always seem like people I know, which is why I love them so much. Oh, thank you for your question, TJ. I don't base them on real people, partly because, out of respect, I suppose. I don't want to make a caricature of a real person. I don't want to inadvertently put someone I know in a professional sense into a book. My husband is convinced that he sees himself in pretty much every male character in my books, but I have promised him his own book coming very soon. But no, I think what people can relate to, and what I like to put in, is a sort of common characteristics, or I'll take something, a little tick that one person has, a personality trait that another person has, something that I've heard someone say, maybe the appearance or sort of the quirks and peculiarities of different people I've met. Sometimes people I sit next to on the bus or in a cafe. So always beware that person who sat there with a notebook in the corner of the cafe. They're likely to be a writer or an author, sort of taking notes. So I think everything is fair game when you're a writer. We're like little magpies. We go and pinch little things from different places. So I also don't want necessarily to constrain the character. I like to get to know them and let them sort of come to life on the page, if you like. I like to get to know them like I would meet a real person. So I don't know everything about the character when I start. Sometimes I think I do, but they often have ideas of their own, and as the story starts to unfold, they often go off in different directions. So yes, but you probably recognise characteristics because that they're common to people. And in the case of Hilary, Hilary is a bit of a prickly character. She's the main point of view character here, although it is written from 3 points of view. She is not necessarily immediately a likable character. And that was not something that I didn't want to shy away from that. I didn't want to make every character likable, or even necessarily relatable. I hope that she's a sympathetic character in that you come to understand her, the way that she thinks and her motivation for some of the things she does and the things she says. And hopefully by the end of the book, you can see how she's come to this point in her life. Whether it explains, whether it excuses some of the way that she does behave, I don't know. But I didn't want to sort of I think readers are very sophisticated, and I think that you don't necessarily have to write a character that everybody is going to relate to and like. I mean, she's not exactly an Olive Kitteridge, if anybody's read Olive Kitteridge, but that's an interesting character. I just want her to be interesting. Joy is people say that Joy is their favorite character. She's sort of warm and fuzzy. She's a kind of character that tends to come up in my other books in different forms as different characters. She's she's a gentler, softer person. She's instantly more likable. And in this one, a lot of people have noticed that I have put in a teenage character. So my third point of view character is Chloe, who is a teenager. And I wanted to do that partly because it was something new for me. I mean, I've been renowned for writing older characters, but I wanted to include that to examine more intergenerational relationships. I wanted to use her as a sort of a mirror or a lens to see, to hold up against the older characters, to reflect what another angle on their aspects of aging. But I also wanted to highlight that ageism works both ways. And we tend to think of ageism as being, stereotyping and discriminating against sort of older people, but it can also work the other way. And certainly older people can hold, unfair stereotypes, preconceptions about younger people too. So I wanted to sort of highlight that and to show that generations, often there's that beautiful bond between the grandparent-grandchild generations, which sort of skips the middle generation. And Chloe has grown up really without grandmothers in her life, which sadly sort of reflects my own daughter, who is 18. It's not based on my daughter, by the way, but I do have a daughter of that age. She does help me with a lot of the vernacular and has pointed out that Mum, Gen Zs don't use punctuation in their text, so hopefully she helped me to get that little bit of authenticity into this character. So those are the characters. So Bev said yes, Hilary was more likable by the end of the book. Yeah. And Tracy said, I love reading books with older and younger characters interacting. Yes, so society is actually more clearly defined or more clearly segregated in terms of age than by any other standards. So, we've all seen these wonderful experimental programs like the Old People's Home for 4-year-olds, where the generations are interacting, and we've seen the benefits of that multi-generational interaction and even living in a lot of circumstances. So I think we should try and see more of that. So Wendy has said, difficult characters often grow on you and really get your interest. They're the ones you remember and often have a soft spot for. Yeah, so like anyone who has read Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Stratt will know, she is an incredibly memorable character. I mean, she's really awful. I mean, Hilary isn't quite as awful. She wouldn't. I'm trying to remember some of the awful things that Olive Kitteridge did to her daughter-in-law. Like, sort of, I think she stole one shoe, or cut a hole in some of her clothes or something. She was really an awful character. Poor Hilary has to put up with Nancy, who's who again is not a likable character. She is the manipulative, chain smoking older sister who's really stayed in the family home. She had a failed love affair. She waited for a man who was never available, and really became the default carer for Hilary and Nancy's elderly parents, and inherited the house and has stayed in the family home. But she is obviously lonely and bitter, and when Hilary has nowhere else to go, she and Jim lose everything. She has to move in with Nancy. Nancy is not keen to let Hilary go again, and comes up with all sorts of ways to try and really manipulate Hilary into staying. So Nancy is not a likable character either, but she's one of my favorite characters in the book because she was so much fun to write. She was really naughty in a lot of ways. Yes, Wendy say Olive is awful. Yeah. Yeah. So Cheryl saying your characters remind me of family members. So yeah, that's great. So and Narelle saying, I love the characters you give us. They're easy to like. I often call my walking shoes my Finding Henry shoes. So Narelle's talking about the book, The Last Voyage of Mrs. Henry Parker. So Mrs. Henry Parker, Evelyn, sets out to try and find her husband who's suddenly gone missing one day. Unfortunately, she can't remember the last time she saw him, but she knows he must be on the ship somewhere. And a pair of shoes just turn up in her cabin with no note on them, which is a bit strange. And they're not her usual. She likes to dress up for dinner in her finery, in her tiara and an evening gown, which if anybody's been on a cruise ship recently will know that that's a little bit unusual these days. But she finds these shoes, these lace-up sort of runners, really quite comfortable, and she wears them with her evening dress and tiara, and she decides that they are her Finding Henry shoes. So she wears these every day as she sets out to sort of explore the ship to look for Henry. So yeah, Finding Henry shoes. So now, Joy Bell, Mrs. Henry Parker was wonderful. Thank you. Edith saying, I read your other books. Looking forward to reading this one when it's available on my reserve list at the library. So yeah, hopefully you've got a great library, Edith. I always get a real sort of warm fuzzy feeling when I think that my books are up there on library shelves, and that people are borrowing them and loving them and sort of signing a list to read them. So that's fantastic. Lindy Lou, haven't read your books, but on my Christmas list. That's fantastic. So I would say, look, not just for my books at the moment, but you may be aware that at the moment, particularly in Australia, I don't know if it's the same anywhere else, but there is a little bit of a supply issue at the moment with book, not just mine, but a lot of the books that are going to be very popular at Christmas. So they're expecting that stock will be difficult to get hold of in all bookshops. So please, any book you want to buy as a gift for Christmas, and goodness, there's a book for everybody. I think there's so many beautiful books that have come out recently. I know that I've got a few on my list, and I shall be giving all the people I love a lovely book this Christmas. But please don't wait. If you see it in the bookshop, don't wait, it may not be there come Christmas. So go out and buy your books as soon as possible. Follow the link on the Better Reading website if you'd like to purchase a copy of the Tea Ladies as well. Okay, Leonie, I just buy books now. Picked up the Jacaranda one from QVB. Fantastic, that's wonderful. And Edith says, so you're in Cairns, Edith, so you've got great libraries in Cairns. That's fantastic. And Tracy, I'll be reading it soon. It's coming up for a December book club. So I don't know if any of you else are in book clubs. There are some book club questions. I have a website, joannanell.com. And on there, you can find a little bit more about each of the books. Plus, there's some book club reading questions if you wanted to have that. I'm sure you have plenty of your own. Or if it's like my book club, there'll be plenty of chat about all sorts of things. But if you'd like to, they're downloadable and printable from there. I also have a newsletter, and it's really been really difficult to get out to bookshops. I have been doing a little bit of book signing in the last week or two. Not as much as I'd like, and a lot of places are still obviously locked down. But if you'd like a signed book plate, so this is a sticky book plate that you put in the front of your book. If you go to my website, joannanell.com, and just sign up to my newsletter, then drop me a line. I'm giving away free book plates, so I'll sign them, I'll dedicate them if you like, and you can stick them in a book if you're in the front of a book. If you're giving that as a gift for someone, or just like a personalised copy of your own. And also, there are postcards as well, which make really good bookmarks. And Louise has asked, have I started a new book? I have, Louise. I have. I'm always. It's almost like sort of talking about the baby before before it's due. But so yes, I am looking at retirement with this one. I joking to my friends that I feel like I'm peri-retirement at the moment. So I'm sort of looking forward, not from writing, but from my professional job, just sort of winding down a little bit towards the end of I feel like I'm late career medic and still early career writer. So it'll be along those lines, but watch out for that one. So, yep. And Anne says she's off to get a book plate tonight. Fantastic, Anne. That's great. I'm really happy about it. And they're free. I'll send them out to you wherever you are for free too. Fantastic. So any other questions? Karen. Hi, Karen Spark. Just finished reading your book. I loved it. Thank you, Karen, for that. That's wonderful. I'm really pleased to hear that. Narelle says, I don't get much time to sit and read, so I listen to the audiobooks. Julie Nell, it does such a great job to bring the characters to life. Yes, Julie's narrated 2 of my books now, and she actually, no, 3, I think. Deirdre Rubinstein was the first one, and Julie Nell has done the last 3, and she is fantastic. I must admit, I listened to an audiobook while I'm out walking or in my car, and then I have another book, a paper back. So that way I feel like I can read 2 books at the same time. And it's really quite a skill in narrating a book. So really getting the right narrator is so important to bring a book to life. And it's not a job that authors do very well, with rare exceptions, but I'm very happy to leave that one to the professionals. So Leonie, I will save you 4 book plates. Definitely just sign up to the newsletter and send me your contact details. And Joy Bussers, I'm glad you're not retiring from writing. Well, I say I'm sort of retiring from doctoring. I probably won't, actually. I love it too much. And it's really been such a huge part of my life. I think the pandemic has been a difficult time to be an author. It's a difficult time to find the sort of creativity when you're worrying about, what's happening in the world. And it's been a tricky time to be a medic as well, being on the front line too. But I think next year will give us a little bit more clarity. Hopefully we'll be getting back to more of a sense of normal, and which has been my favorite book to write. It's like trying to choose your favorite child, that one, isn't it? I think the most challenging in terms of structure, because it was a dual timeline and an unreliable narrator, I don't think that's giving too much away, it was The Last Voyage of Mrs. Henry Parker, which is probably the least well known of my books. But I always like a challenge as a writer. So anyway, I think we might be coming up towards the end now. So I can't believe that the half an hour has gone so quickly. Favorite genre to read? Jill, I read everything. Fiction, I think, is my favorite. General fiction, but I read everything. I read crime, romance, non-fiction, a few craft books. So I just love to read, and try not to read too much by one person, otherwise that can start to sort of influence your influence my writing style a little bit, but I just read very widely, which is the best advice to any would-be writer. Read, read, read. Okay, so Ansa, it's been wonderful listening to you. Thank you everyone for coming along and for your great questions tonight as well. It's been great. It's been really lovely. And thanks very much to Better Reading for hosting this book event. It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure. And happy reading, everyone. And if it's not too early, can I wish you all a happy Christmas and get to the bookshops and buy a book for all the people that you love. So